So one of the things I really enjoy is talking to people about what they do and how they do it. In NLP, we talk about modeling people who are great at what they do. And I'm not going to get too much into modeling today. There are different ways of modeling. What I'm talking about here is just being curious and asking a lot of questions about how somebody does something. But I noticed something. There were three people that I had talked to or modeled informally on different occasions. And each of them, I think we would describe the ability in different ways, but I noticed some similar patterns in all three. So all three of these people really enjoyed conversation, and they reported that the people that they spoke to also enjoyed speaking with them. So I would say that's sort of the general context. And the first thing that I noticed about all three is that all three of them were incredibly curious. One guy in particular, I noticed him doing this over time. We would spend time together, and we'd be we might be in a social situation, or a couple of times we were on a drive with different people. And I noticed that no matter who he was talking to, it was that he was incredibly fascinated, and he could just listen for hours and just kept asking more and more questions to whoever he was talking about their life and the things they had done and what it was like for them. So that really, it really made an impression on me. It just seemed like no matter what anybody was talking about, he was just unbelievably curious. So that's sort of what sparked my curiosity to speak with him. And when I was speaking to these two other gentlemen, they had the same thing, incredible curiosity about who they were talking to. So that's the first thing that I noticed. They really just wanted to know as much about whoever they were talking about or talking with. They wanted to know as much as they could hear. And another thing they had in common is, as they were talking and they were hearing about the person's experience, they were imagining for themselves that that was something that they were experiencing. And a couple other things that I noticed in common about them is because people enjoyed speaking with them, they all reported that even if they just met somebody, people really opened up and would share just the most kind of rich experiences from their lives, even though they had just met. One guy talked about that he went to this party and he met somebody, and they ended up talking for an hour or so. And at the end of the party, he invited their family to go on vacation with them. So it created this incredible bond that was really interesting. Obviously, this quality of listening and this curiosity, it does sort of bring a closeness, I would say. People reported that they really liked these people. The guy that I mentioned that we went on these drives, it seemed like everybody really liked this guy. And I think they liked him because he was so curious and just wanted to know more about their experience. Another thing that I noticed that they all said in common was, because I was asking them, what is it that makes you so curious? And one guy put it this way. He said, I grew up in a particular town in a particular place, and I'm familiar with my background. And he said, when I get to find out about someone else and where they grew up, it's like I get to grow up again. Or, I get to really get curious about what it was like, if I grew up in the city, they grew up in the country, like, what was it like growing up in the country? Or what would it be like to grow up on a farm or in a different country? And so that's kind of what drove him. He just wanted to know what it was like to grow up like that person. And then another guy, he said, he was talking to people about what fascinated them. And he said, I don't really care so much about the thing that fascinates them, but I want to understand what is it that fascinates them about that thing. So he said, I'm going to keep asking them questions until I can get fascinated about it in the same way that they do. And he described something very much like the first person. He said, when I get to that point where I can get fascinated in the same way that they get fascinated, it's almost like I get another life. So he said, each time I have one of these sort of deep conversations with somebody, I get to an experience. It's like living multiple lives. And so that was another thing that all three of these people had in common. So to sort of state those again, each of them were incredibly curious. Each of them were just fascinated to listen and just hear and draw people out more and more. Each of them felt that by listening, they could experience some of what the person said and get some understanding of what it was like to grow up in a different way. And all of them had the experience of people really enjoying this and opening up to them. So I hope that gives you some ideas of some things that you could explore, and maybe that's something that you can try on as well. I know that when I've done that, it really has given me a different quality of listening. It's a very rich experience. And one thing that one of them did that I didn't check with the other two is he said he likes listening because he likes combining different types of ideas that he learns in his life. So he said if he gets this rich experience from one person and then he'll get a rich experience from another, then he gets to go on and combine those. And he's like a chef. I wonder what it's like if I combine these different qualities of life experience. So that's one little extra piece.